To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time for every purpose under heaven. A time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, a time to reap, a time to kill, a time to heal, a time to laugh, a time to weep. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, 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 and a time to every purpose under heaven. A time to build up, a time to break down, a time to dance, a time to mourn, a time to cast away stones, a time to gather stones together. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season and a time to every purpose under heaven. A time of love, a time of hate, a time of war, a time of peace, a time you may embrace, a time to refrain from embracing. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, 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 and a time to every purpose under heaven. A time to gain, a time to lose, a time to rend, a time to sow, a time to love, a time to hate, a time of peace. I swear it's not too late. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season and a time to every purpose under heaven, and a time to every purpose under heaven.
It's a sad occasion, but hopefully by the end of the service we'll be able to draw a little comfort from each other. So welcome to you all, especially those of you who've travelled a long way. Some of you family members have come quite a distance, haven't you? Either today or yesterday. So well done for being here, and you're most welcome. We're going to talk about dear Joan, are we not? Now for some of you, of course, it's Mum. And for some of you, it's Nana, grandmother. For some of you, it's great-grandmother, isn't it? For some of us here, it's a dear friend. And for many of us, it's a sister in the congregation. So what can we say about Joan Jones? When was she born? Well, let me tell you. The 16th of October, 1920. So that makes her 97 years old. What a great age, don't you think? Wow, 97 years old. She was born or she was christened as Joan Edith Ross, and the family knew her as Edie, not Joan. We know her as Joan, don't we? But either way, Joan, Edie, a lovely, lovely person. And one of a really big family. I think she was number 5 out of 11. They had big families in those days, didn't they? And Joan's family was like that. Perhaps that explains why she was so family-minded, because she really was. Now, where was she born? Well, you'll have not heard of this place, Bemerton, part of Salisbury in Wiltshire now. In the old days, it was just to the west of Salisbury. You've heard of Salisbury a bit in the news, haven't we? Yeah, we hear it again today. Joan was from Salisbury. The family moved a little bit later to a village south of Trowbridge, also in Wiltshire. So she was a West Country girl. But then you didn't need me to tell you that, did you? What an accent. What a lovely West Country burr. That's what they call it, isn't it? A burr. And that's how Joan spoke, wasn't it? So if you shut your eyes and you just heard that voice, you'd know who was speaking. It was Joan Jones. In 1942, now we're moving forward a little bit in time, she met her husband Ted Jones. And on the 3rd of May, now it's the 3rd of May today, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, so the 3rd of May 1944, they got married. So let me do the sums. That's 74 years ago, today, as it were. They were married and they moved and lived in Southall in Middlesex. It didn't stay that way for long because along came 2 daughters. 1947, April, and in 1949, Christine. And after that, 7 grandchildren. And after that, I put 10 question mark. 11. I thought I was wrong. Great-grandchildren. So another big family. So it's big family upon big family. And then later on, a brother Les Askew called on the family as one of Jehovah's Witnesses. And apparently Joan and April accepted the truth. And the baptism was the next step. Actually, Ted asked that Joan might wait until he was ready for baptism so they might get baptized together, which they did. They got baptized, let me think, September 1958 in Haringey in London. So that was 60 years ago, wasn't it? Extraordinary. And here's a nice kind insight, or rather an insight into the kind of person that Joan was. When Ted retired in 1965, Joan thought it might be a good idea to go back to where Ted come from, because he was a northern man. So they went to live at a place called Polterton, near Bolsover in Derbyshire. And that's where they spent their retired years, until 12 years later, very sadly, Ted died of a brain tumour. And incidentally, I just draw your attention to the box that you see in front of you. If you wanted to make a donation, the donations are going to the Brain Tumour Charity, for that very reason which I've just said, because of Ted. What happened next? Joan came to Norwich. And that's where we all come in, isn't it? Because that is when we got to know Joan really well. She came here to stay with the family so that they might look after her in the twilight years of her life. Mind you, there were a lot of twilight years, weren't there, when you come to think of it? So that's how we all came to know her and came to love her, and she became quite the legend that she was. Now, before we go into our personal memories about Joan, 2 of Joan's grandchildren, Miriam and Naomi, would just like to recite some poems that they've composed about their nana. Now, you can follow along. I think they're in the programme there, aren't they? So the girls would like to come to the front and just recite those 2 poems that you've composed.
Unfortunately, Helen can't be here, so I've got something that Helen has written as well. I'll read what I wrote first, which is the bit we've got in the programme. My Nana. Edith, Joan Ross, or Joan Edith Ross, or Joan Jones, or Mrs. Jones, Sister J, Mum, Nana, Auntie Edie, Auntie Joan, R. Reed, Edie, Gran, Duck. Even her parents argued over what to name her, baptised her as Joan Edith. Her mischievous father told the registrar, Edith Joan. So good they named her twice. I called her Nana. Sleep in peace, life breathed out, nearly a century of chatter stilled. Middle child between two who didn't survive, with a grieving mother and a playful father, hiding from chores in a hayloft. A child stumbling over river stones, her brother tumbling into the rushing water and rescued. A mishap that lost her supper, now a story to tell with twinkling eyes. The lazy student who played the fool, choosing to laugh at sunny secondary, avoiding the stillness of the dark of the grammar. The teenager who danced with bawdy soldiers, who shocked her mother by wearing trousers, welding spitfires and dancing into the evening, with a soldier who didn't come back home, and another whose ring she returned, to be with the soldier who became her home. The mother who never felt pretty or clever with her daughters who were both, and the man who drove her mad and made her safe. The woman who wanted to understand, to make sense of the post-war world, to find peace, a belief that felt true. The woman who travelled the Holy Land and studied her God with commitment and shared her faith with love. Who saw her grandchildren play and run through the garden until they brought her children of their own and laughed to see the next generation as lively as the last. The widow who grieved, thought she could not survive on her own without her Ted, who found a new home, new friends in a new city, welcomed and welcoming. The old lady with failing eyes and hips that refused to comply, and stubborn will for independence, full of tall stories and long songs, sipping her tea from a mug and dunking biscuits from the barrel. And she is quiet now, whose laughter was as bold as her scolding, whose songs carried joy and freedom. She's quiet now. Good night. God bless. Joan Edith. Youth Joan. Nana. And from Helen, who obviously couldn't be here today because she's just had yet another great-grandchild for Nan. And she wrote, remembering how important Nan was to us all. Nan was the best Nan you could ever wish for. She was full of fun, of energy, full of life, and had so much love for her grandchildren and great-grandchildren. Nan had all the time in the world for her grandkids. On visiting, there were always homemade butterfly cakes, our favourite pop in the larder, along with our favourite cereal and many other treats. She would cook our favourite foods, bake with us, take us to Sherwood Forest, and many other places, and even take us swimming, when she couldn't swim herself. Nan always made the effort and nothing was too much trouble. Nan even made our clothes, which was great, especially when one pair of pyjamas fitted two of us in at the same time. Nan said once she never thought about dying until she started to lose her friends and family. Life was always out living, and that she did. Nan was full of fun. We weren't really allowed to eat in the car, so we'd go to the cake shop, buy a bun and sit with one leg out of the car, so we weren't officially sat in the car. There were some scary but funny moments. Once at a petrol station, she forgot to put the handbrake on. As she was putting petrol in the car, it started to roll. Banging on the window, she replied, "I know, I won't be a minute." Luckily, one of us knew how to put the handbrake on. Nan was often laughing and singing. We'd ring her and she'd sing along with her great-grandchildren down the phone to whatever their favourite song was at the time. Many a time she has sung The Wheels of the Bus. Nan also had this amazing ability to know when something was wrong and would call until she knew all was well. Nan always made you feel so loved and treasured, so wanted, and gave the best hugs in the world. Nan made you feel you could achieve anything and gave you the confidence to do so while always being there for you. Nan didn't ask for anything but would appreciate the smallest things like a simple phone call and a quick hello. thank you, Nana. We're going to miss you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Very nice. Well, we've got our memories too, haven't we? I was going to mention those driving exploits. I was going to mention the mobility scooter that graduated to a car, but I won't. You know what happened, don't you? You know the sort of thing that happened. She said, incidentally, I am 97. I can't imitate this West Country accent. I am 97. I never thought I would become this old. But I've had a good life, and I can't complain, can I? Can you imagine that in her accent? Excellent. All right, so what can we say about Joan's beliefs? Because, as was suggested in those readings, they were very much part of her commitment, weren't they? Her beliefs, her way of life. What did she actually believe? Well, I put down here 3 things which I thought were pertinent to our service this afternoon. She believed in a resurrection from the dead, firmly. Secondly, she believed that this is not the only life. She believed that there is a better life in a better place to come. Sure of it. And thirdly, she believed in the prospect of seeing her dead loved ones and family and friends again. They're connected, aren't they? So, this resurrection from the dead, is it true? Do we believe it? Well, there are some really, really clear references in the Bible. Let me give you 1 or 2. This is what Paul testified before the governor Felix. And I have hope toward God, he said, which hope these men also look forward to, that there is, notice the conviction, that there is going to be a resurrection of both the righteous and the unrighteous. That's Acts 24 and verse 15. Yeah? That's Paul. What did Jesus say about the resurrection? Well, this is what he said to Martha in John 11. I am the resurrection and the life. The one who exercises faith in me. Did Joan exercise faith in Jesus? Definitely. So the one that exercises faith in me, even though he or she dies, will come to life. There's that conviction again. Will come to life. John 11:25. So it's very clear then that the one who created life in the first place will find it relatively easy to remember and recreate that life sometime in the future. Now, the second belief that Joan had, like I said, this is not reality in a sense. This is not the real life. This is not the life that we were meant to experience when we were placed on this planet. That there is a better life, indeed the best is yet to come, was something Joan also believed. Do you remember what Paul wrote to Timothy? 1 Timothy 6 and verse 19, if you just want to check it. Coming in partway through the sentence, Paul says, safely treasuring up for themselves a fine foundation for the future, so that they may get a firm hold on the real life. So put the phrases together, and there's the implication that the real life is yet to come. It's in the future. Where? What is our belief? Well, what would have happened to our forebears if they'd been obedient, if they had done as they were told to do, and all had gone to plan as part of Jehovah's purpose? Well, humankind would have carried on being indefinitely alive, perfect health, on this paradise earth, or on the paradise prototype that they were given. So that's what Joan believed. That was God's original purpose, and that was her conviction and hope too. Now, what about this third point? I guess it sort of follows on from what I've just said, really, that Joan believed that she would see her friends and family again. Is there any basis for believing that? Well, here's an interesting thing. There are 9 recorded resurrections in the Bible. 8 of them, the dead person is reintroduced to family or friends. It's interesting, isn't it? There's a foregleam for the future. In fact, and this is something we're going to be studying at our meeting this evening, in Mark chapter 5, there's the story of the 12-year-old girl, the daughter of Jairus. Do you remember that? And Jesus said to the parents who were grieving, just as we are grieving now, he said, have no fear. Just exercise faith. And then in verse 39 of Mark 5, the child hasn't died, which was a strange thing to say because she manifestly was dead, but he knew what he was going to do. So he said, but is sleeping. And you can awake from a sleep, can't you? He knew that, and he knew what he was going to do. Is sleeping. And then, of course, he resurrects this 12-year-old girl. How did the parents feel? How would you feel? How will we feel in the future when we welcome such as Joan back again? They were beside themselves with great ecstasy. In other words, they couldn't contain how they felt. They were that joyous. That's how we'll feel, hopefully, when we see dear Joan again. So those are three things that Joan was firmly convinced of. Just one final thought. Funerals, like this. And it's lovely to see so many in the room. Why are we here? What's the purpose of coming along to somebody's funeral, other than to just pay respects for the memory? Well, perhaps it's an opportunity for us to comfort one another and reaffirm our beliefs and our feelings for each other. Now, that's easier said than done for some people, isn't it? Some people find that a very difficult thing to do. They might even say, I don't know what to say. I feel so awkward. What can you say? What words are adequate? But we should try. We should really try. It doesn't necessarily mean anything really big. Just a hug, perhaps, or a squeeze on the arm. Are you okay? Something like that. Maybe it's just being prepared to listen, isn't it? Listen to somebody talking, even if it's while or talk. A kind word, if we can find one. And there's one thing we can all do, personally and privately, and that's pray. Pray with somebody, or perhaps pray for somebody. Just pray to God. Thank him for the resurrection hope. Ask him to give us the needed strength to help us to cope. The psalmist said, Jehovah will become a secure refuge for the oppressed. And it's the next line, really. A secure refuge in times of distress. Lovely thoughts, aren't they? So shall we do that? Shall we stand and sing a song of praise to Jehovah? Now, we've got the music. It's in your song. The words are in the songbook, in the program rather. It's song 139. It's called See Yourself Well, All Is New. And then we'll say a word of prayer to Jehovah in conclusion. just bow our heads in prayer. Our dear Father, Jehovah God, how grateful we are to you for arranging for the resurrection of the dead, for raising your own Son as a guarantee of that, and then empowering him for his role to resurrect millions of others. Please, Heavenly Father, will you remember our sister Joan, locked away, hopefully, in your infallible memory. Please remember for her love and her works and her example and for the loving person that she was. Dear Father, Jehovah God, please help us who are left not to sorrow as the rest do, who have no hope. Please help us to have faith, confidence and hope in you. Help us also, dear fathers, to still be here when the time for the resurrection comes. Help us to remain faithful to the end. Help us to keep our vision of the future nice and clear. And help us finally, Jehovah, to be of comfort to each other and to all. Help us, Father, to be empathetic and kind so that we can feel your solace, your love in our relationships. So these are our thoughts, Jehovah, and we ask, please, now that you will bless us as we fellowship together. And we thank you for all these things in Jesus' name. Amen. I think now the arrangement is, everybody, that the family goes first and goes out through the door to my right, and then we will just file out in turn behind them. Thank you.
For all those times you stood by me, for all the truth that you made me see, for all the joy you brought to my life, for all the wrong that you made right, for every dream you made come true, for all the love I found in you, I'll be forever thankful, baby. You're the one who held me up, never let me fall. You're the one who saw me through it all. You were my
you love me. Oh, I'm everything I am because you